a new security framework, and there was some secret information about cooperation with NATO. And when Clinton visited you, you also volunteered to join NATO. But I just wonder whether some degree of cooperation between Russia and NATO will be existent in future to avoid a war and live normally. I'll bet that I hope that next year we'll have more talks about peace than war. Thank you for your question. We also would very much like to live in peace next year, getting rid of military conflicts, and I reiterate, we actually would very much like to resolve all contentious issues by way of talks. And I hope that you will be in agreement. We'll have to eradicate the root causes of the conflict so that it shouldn't happen in future for the sake of a lasting, durable, and just peace. With respect to prospective cooperation with NATO, we had it in the past, and we also discussed a membership, first of the USSR, then of Russia, in NATO, but in both cases we figured out that we were not welcome there, and the promises that had been given to us that NATO would not expand had been ignored, and we had been deceived, and there had been several waves of expansion of NATO, and that entailed moving military infrastructure closer to our border, which causes our legitimate concern. And in this context, a new security system or framework in Europe is very relevant, rather relevant. Even before the breakup of the USSR, some clever people in Europe like the social democrats in Germany proposed to establish a new security framework in Europe, not expanding NATO, but establishing a new security framework with the participation of the US, Eastern Europe, and Russia, so that no one should be left behind or put in a difficult situation. Actually, now we don't require anything untoward or extraordinary. We're not saying that a country should not be able to select a way of protecting itself, but this should be a way that wouldn't threaten anyone, including us. Would not require anything that wasn't voiced before. We just insist on keeping the promises that were given to us by the Western partners. We were deceived, actually bamboozled, and now we want a reliable system in Europe. Now, with respect to NIS, it is a daunting task, you're right. I mean, that enterprise, that company, despite the desire to improve relations, which is seen on the face, well, the sanctions pressure continues, and that also touches upon our Gazprom Neft, oil and gas company owning NIS. And Gazprom Neft invested more than $3 billion into NIS, turning that enterprise into a state-of-the-art and efficient one. And this is the main taxpayer to the budget of Serbia. We know what the developments around this company are, and we have an intergovernmental agreement with Serbia on non-acceptance of any kind of restrictions towards this business entity. And we assume and presume that the leadership of Serbia that is friendly to us will will act on its promises and obligations. Otherwise, no one would know how to invest money into an economy, even if an intergovernmental agreement wouldn't be observed. But we have some thoughts of how to move forward together, and we've been pursuing dialogue with our Serbian friends on that, and I hope that we'll find a way out, a necessary, proper way out. If I may, coming back to the question, to the issue that you have touched upon already, but will you focus on it again with respect to the children's benefits accrual? Families with many kids apply for these. They work a lot, but even if they have an excess of 100 rubles of income, they are not eligible to such benefits. And Gulnara is online, wishing to ask a question. Good day, Mr. President. Happy forthcoming New Year. I'm from Tyumen region, the rural settlement of Bar. I receive 27,000 rubles per month, and my husband is a driver, getting 80,000 rubles per month, and I work at a kindergarten as a tutor. And we expect more kids, and we participate in different contests and competitions. We have the Ready for Labor Independence marks. And I've been a mother with multiple children for 11 years, and I only once was entitled to a payout, to benefit. And last year we have an excess of income of 100 rubles, and in November an excess of income of 250 rubles. And because of that, we are not entitled to any benefits at all, like the travel benefits or food stuff payouts. And we have 6 kids, and we work a lot. My husband and I, we work quite a lot. And we work extra hours, we moonlight, and we have a small farm. We have chickens, and we actually would like to get some help from the government at the end of the day. Gulnara, actually, I have touched upon this matter in general terms, responding to previous questions of this sort. I fully share your view. You have mentioned the fact that you work a lot and your income goes up. At the same time, the support you receive from the government goes down straight away. So when you earn less, you receive more from the government. So it seems it's kind of destimulating. It's pointless to work more on the face of it. But I believe that this is a mistake, an erroneous policy on the part of the government, and I'm certain that the finance ministry and the government will heed us now. It's not about economizing and trading on families with multiple children is immoral. I agree with you. I think that colleagues will see to that, and this will be resolved with respect to bills, housing bills, and electricity and other bills. I just want to remind you and all people for whom such matters are of importance that, well, the general procedure is as follows. If the spending on housing bills and utilities bills exceed the aggregate income of family by 22%, the government is obliged to provide support. Everything on top of that 20% should be covered by the government. Are you in the know of that? I'm in the know about all the benefits in some regions. Well, Moscow is a relatively well-to-do region, and here up, well, from 10% of the spending overrun and upwards is the amount that is covered by the regional budget. And with respect to supporting families with multiple children, This is the cornerstone of our welfare policies, and I reiterate that, and I would like the regional and federal authorities to remember that before you pursue any policy, just think twice how it's going to tell on the incomes of people and families with many children in particular. And the main point of yours was about the reduction of governmental support. If your income goes up, we'll do everything to resolve that. Also, on the part of the working mothers, I hope that Gulnara is hearing us now. And here the child benefit is paid until the child turns 1.5 years of age, and many mothers say that at this age, kids are not accepted to the infancy or kindergartens, and very many of them ask to extend this period to 3 years of age of a child. So the maternal leave lasts till a child turns 3. And the kindergartens accept children mostly when they cross the 3 years of age threshold. And, mothers will not be tolerated if they do not return to work. And, very many mothers want the payout to support their kids to be extended till a baby turns 3.
Well, yes, until a child turns 18 months, the family gets the benefit. But, the answer is very simple. There are budget constraints. There's no justification other than this one. But the government will have to think of something on how to address this problem and similar problems. As far as kindergartens are concerned, creche, and whether it's possible for a mother to go to work early, yes, this is one of the ways to address that. Not everything has been done to ensure that. A lot has been done, however, to renovate and rebuild schools. Right now, we're working on upgrading our kindergartens. I would like to ask my colleagues in the regions to listen to me very carefully when issues on renovating kindergartens are addressed. Probably it would be best to also set up crash groups right away. This is the first part of the solution. Secondly, it might seem simple, but still it requires additional attention as well as additional expenditure. We need, namely, to increase the number of hours spent by children in creche and kindergartens, not just 18 hours, probably it has to be extended, but this in turn would require increasing the number of teachers and specialists looking after children, but that would involve increasing the staff, and the government needs to think on how to go about addressing this discrepancy, this gap between 18 months and 36 months. On the whole, however, we've got more or less a refined system for supporting motherhood as well as families with children. Just to cite an example, benefits are provided to women once they get pregnant and until their children turn 18, and sometimes this benefits can be extended until 23 years when students go to universities, if this is a full-fledged education, not just evening classes. As far as families with 3 and more children are concerned, we have to pay particular attention to this issue, this status of heroine mother. It has been improved right now. It's tantamount to a year of labor. There's a number of benefits. that come with that. There's another component. In the past, additional points were added to the pension, but only 3 children were taken into account when calculating the pensions, whereas right now a new decision has been taken when a pension is calculated. Not just the first 3 children, but the subsequent children are also going to be taken into account, and additional points will be added to the score which is used for calculating the pension. The government will continue improving and enhancing and fine-tuning the system of measures for supporting families with 3 and 2 and more children. Let's get back to the audience. It's been more than 2 hours, and we haven't noticed how time flies by. Kazan, did you want to ask something about Islam? Mr. President, good afternoon. Good afternoon. Thank you for this opportunity. Tatar Forum, the city of Kazan in 2026. As you're probably aware, Kazan is going to be the cultural capital of the Islamic world. The decision has been made by the Conference of Organization for Islamic Cooperation, and we know that recently Russia has been steadily improving its ties with the Islamic world as well as with the global south. In Tatarstan, Rustam Minikhanov is pursuing this agenda together with the foreign ministry and also as part of the strategic group for Russia Islamic world vision. What do you think the emphasis should be in Russia's ties with the Islamic world? And the second issue as follows. Is it fair to say that Muslims all across the world view Kazan, Tatarstan, and Russia and view it as what Islam should look like in the modern world? The thing is, the Islamic world is very varied, just as the Christian world is very diverse. You and I both know that, but I'm confident that the example of Tatarstan is positive in the highest degree, and many colleagues of mine from countries with the preponderant Islamic population keep that in mind. They follow closely the experience of Tatarstan, and that is a positive experience. That is a positive experience of coexistence of people of different religions and different ethnic groups, and Tatarstan is an exemplar in that regard. My congratulations to you on that. This has started with the first head of Tatarstan, and Rustam Minikhanov has taken up the baton, and he's doing well. And I'm not surprised that Kazan has been selected as the venue for huge international events for the Organization for Islamic Cooperation. Incidentally, Russia is an observer in that organization, and I was the one who initiated that. I addressed my colleagues and asked them to accept Russia as a country with observer status, and to our pleasure, this was accepted by all of our colleagues from the Islamic world. I was following that with enthusiasm. I was very happy. I was very pleased. That happened a long time ago, but this was the absolutely correct decision from us. More than 10% of the Russian population are Muslim. Well, I'm not gonna cite what the patriarch has told me on the subject, but, you know, Christianity, this is Oriental Christianity, Eastern Christianity, and, you know, as all of our core values are concerned, we share these values. They coincide. And Tatarstan is doing a lot in terms of spirituality, in terms of education, in terms of bringing up children. You know, a special academy has been set up in Tatarstan, which is of huge importance. We, in Russia, we have to prepare and educate experts in Islam. And the same applies to Bashkortostan. And just as we used to do that in the past, we intend to support all traditional religions of the Russian Federation. A little louder? Oh no, let's give a chance to the colleagues. The thing is, we've got this Kazan Forum, which is a yearly event. This venue is growing year in, year out. I would like to ask you whether you intend to visit Kazan Forum this year. The thing is, we've distributed these events among colleagues. Usually I visit St. Petersburg and Vladivostok, whereas the chairman of the Russian government usually visits Sochi for a similar forum, you know, just to bring the very same people to all events. That's why we're trying to redistribute that among ourselves. That said, this is a very important forum, and we'll keep supporting it, because this is yet another thread, another tie that brings us closer together with our friends and allies in the Arab world, in the Islamic world in general, and I think without exaggeration, I can say in our ties with the global south. You know, 3 questions in total. Let's have some respect for one another. Our friends from China. Xinhua, please. That sector, yes. Mr. President, good afternoon. Xinhua Agency, as you said on multiple occasions, Russian-Chinese relations are at the highest historical level. Just this year, Tu and President Xi have met twice, whereas next year 2 important anniversaries will be celebrated. First, 30 years since the establishment of relations of partnership and strategic interaction between Russia and China, as well as 25 years since the signing of the agreement on good neighborliness and cooperation. My question is, what's your take on the achievements of the Russian-Chinese strategic cooperation over the last 3 decades, and what's your vision for the next 3 decades? Well, from the outset, I would like to say that I view President Xi as a reliable friend as well as a stable partner, my reliable friend as well as a partner and an ally of Russia we can count upon. And probably this gives us the key to understanding the development of the ties between Russia and China. These relations are developing in a steady fashion. Of course, the agreements you've mentioned are important, namely the establishment of the strategic partnership, but most important is practice, what we're doing in our daily interactions across all avenues and all directions. We've cited some figures. The statistics from Russia and China vary a little bit, but on the whole, it's around 240, 250 billion US dollars. That's less than the countries of the EU taken together, but on a country-by-country basis, Russia ranks first with among China's trade partners. It's 240, 250 billion between China and Russia, but with EU, China has a 700 billion US dollars trade. But if you take individual countries, then of course Russia ranks first. Of course, China has very big trade with Japan, with the US, with South Korea. But if we look at Europe, then we'll see that Russia ranks first. And these relations are developing, entering into different spheres and domains, and what is a particularly source of joy for me, it covers high-tech, education, humanitarian ties, exploration of outer space. We cooperate. And this is something that testifies to the high level of trust between our countries. We even cooperate in the military field, and we conduct joint drills on a regular basis. Our strategic aviation carries out patrols on a regular basis, and the same goes for our joint drills on the ground. And I think it would would be fair for me to underscore once again that Russian-Chinese cooperation is a significant factor of stability across the world. Our defense ministries are in constant contact. They coordinate on the issues of the current agenda. So I'm hopeful that this is the vein in which we will keep continuing our ties with our Chinese friends for the near future and for the more distant future. Let's take another question from the audience. Is that lady in blue next to you? Yes. Good afternoon, Mr. President. Evgenia Volgina, Moscow speaks. I've got a question about demographics in general. On multiple occasions, you've stated that birth rates are going down in Russia, even though the material stimuli are still very much present. There are benefits, there are allowances, special payments, but right now we've got a very small generation of women who are in the age of fertility, and once this demographic trough is going to be over, well, that is a subject of discussion among specialists in demographics. Moreover, young people are more interested in building their career and creating a cushion, and also that begs the question of what kind of measures for material stimulation can be envisioned by yourself, what can be done and adopted to push young people to create families and give birth to children. And secondly, maybe we could talk to young people right now, telling them that they shouldn't wait too long, they shouldn't be, afraid of bearing children, maybe kind of a value component, as it were. This is a question that is of great importance to all countries that have entered the post-industrial stage of development. Almost all big economies, all big countries, the very same picture is seen everywhere. And some countries are facing a dramatic situation. Let's take Japan, for instance, because the birth coefficient stands at 0.8%, whereas in South Korea, it's as low as 0.7%. This is the number of children per one woman who is in the age of fertility. Our birth rate stands at 1.5%, whereas we need at least 2%, which is a tall task. A lot is certainly dependent on the material conditions of our families. Certainly, families shouldn't suffer from a lower standard of living due to the birth of a child, and this is an important thing factored in. I'm not going to recount everything that is being done, starting from pregnancy until children have reached 18 years, sometimes longer. 75 billion rubles was allocated several years ago for the support of birth rates in the regions that were requiring special attention. We're also trying to elevate the status of mothers with 3 and more children. I'm also talking about keeping in place the family mortgage. This is a thing we have to work on additionally, a mortgage at 6%. And we will keep doing everything in our power to convince young people to create families and have children as soon as possible. This is a very fine line we're walking, First, young women in particular want to get some education. Then they want to get additional education, make their first steps on their career path. And then it's 30 years and the first child comes and they don't have enough time or strength to get another child. And you know how it goes. We want to make having children fashionable, trendy. We want people understand what motherhood and fatherhood are and the joys they bring along. Let's get back to Naran Alexeyevich. He's been at the front line for 4 years, but he's got 4 children, however. You know, everyone is trying to teach others using their own experience, and we say that we've got to learn from others' experience, and this applies to all spheres of life. But that said, still everyone has to make their own mistakes and learn from their own experience. And once they've done something, they've faced something, they understand what they did wrong, what they should have done. You know, I spoke about that. I think I did that publicly.
The last meeting with the families with several kids. Well, there was a woman with a family of 8 or 9 children, and she said very beautiful words. She said that we have 10 children, for instance. Every time a new child appeared, we already had 5 or 6 people in our family, but a new child appeared. Every time we thought, how could we live without you all this time? Such evaluation, such attitude to children, the understanding of your own happiness in the state of motherhood and fatherhood, that is what should be communicated to the people, and that is difficult. But we all should do this. That is why I'm speaking to this audience and to your colleagues, representatives of the media, to cultural figures. They're all talented people. They make good films and performances. They write books. They make great performances in theaters. But please always think about this. When you write about something, when you show something, try to make a propaganda of, try to promote the motherhood, the fatherhood. This is important. But what's more important is what inside of your heart, and understanding just simple human happiness. There is an interesting story. We have a question from a girl. She wants to be, she wants to have a career, but she also wants to be a mother, but she's studying in a medical institution, medical university. As you know, the medical graduates need to work after graduation for several years in a place chosen for them by the state. So right now, these graduates don't know how their life is going to be after graduation. Just one thing, you asked one question, and there is one thing that I pointed out. In 25 regions of the Russian Federation, there is a positive demographic trend. It means that our colleagues working in the regions pay due attention to this issue, and it means that we have good results, even in this sphere of demography, which is really important for our country. 25 regions of the Russian Federation demonstrating positive trends in demographics. Let's see the video. Alina Valerievna from Kemerovo. Distinguished Mr. Putin, hello. I'm student of the 5th year of the medical university in Kemerovo. I'm ready to work, to have compulsory for several years after graduation. So it will be when I will be 27, 30 years old. This is the time to create family, to give birth to children. The salary of young experts will not allow to do that. So I would like to ask, maybe are there any special conditions that will allow to combine these two things? Maybe there is a possibility to create financial support or housing support for medical graduates, medical experts of young age, because there will be young experts going to other regions. How the government, the state is going to help us with the childbirth in these conditions. Regarding the support of young families with children, we have already spoken about this several times. There is a range of measures to support families with children. When you say that you are on the 5th year of your education, so you will have to work for several years after that. No, it is what do we know? What we do understand about that? When someone is entering postgraduate education, since the 1st March next year, a measure is introduced that after this, if you have been studying for free, it means that a graduate will have to work as a doctor for several years at a region, at a different region. And in different places, it will be different. In a rural area, it will be shorter. In the bigger cities, it will be longer. But this will be the choice of every graduate. If they want to sign this contract about free education, then they will have to work compulsory after that, because they have received education for free. If they do not want this, they are not allowed. They do not have to sign this contract, and they can pay for their education. In this case, a student can receive an education loan and then return it during labor activity after graduation. As for the students, medical students, we're not speaking about compulsory work in a specific sphere, in a specific city, in a specific area. We are only saying that a medical graduate who is going to graduate from a medical institution has to work according to his or her medical sphere in a medical institution where people can receive services according to the compulsory medical insurance. But as for the family and having kids, this is the choice of every certain person. We need to evaluate your opportunities and to take a decision. But as I have already said, additional education or the start of career or big income cannot be could not be the reason to delay getting married or having a child. Well, the one important thing that we're speaking about attestation to become a doctor. Yes, for instance, someone is graduating from a university. This person is not being sent somewhere far away to a town or a village. This person just needs to work as a doctor in a public institution with the compulsory medical insurances. But before that, in the Soviet Union, people were sent to other regions, but now we do not have that. The decisions that were made, they're very soft, and this is a kind of a recommendation. Probably it would be better that we will not have to do this in the future, for instance. Without any case, this girl asked a question. She is right. What can we do? We need to improve living conditions, solve housing problems. In general, the state is trying to follow this track. This regards such a form of support as a paramedic in a village or a teacher in a village. There's a range of support measures that we need to prove. As for the pedagogical universities, they will also have to work after graduation. Well, everyone is really afraid of this decision. As we are speaking about graduates from pedagogical universities, this will not be applied to them. Please, let's work with the audience. The hero of Russia, our military journalist. Hello, Mr. Putin. I have a question. I think it's very important for many people in the regions that there are many problems. I'm speaking about front regions. First of all, I'm speaking about Donbas. There is a very acute problem of water supply. We have spoken a lot about this for many years. Now the situation is that not only in Donetsk, but in other cities as well, in Donbas and almost all cities of Donbas, the water supply is interrupted. Like once in 2 or 4 days, it is low-quality water. People living higher than the 5th or 6th floor do not have any supply of water because it doesn't go this far. And we know that water is truly important. And the causes of that are the actions of our adversary. For many years, those who live in the Donetsk People's Republic and Lugansk People's Republic live with this problem. How long is it going to be? We cannot answer this question. Excuse me, Evgeny, you know what is the cause of this problem? The system of water supply, the main system of water supply, is beyond Slavyansk, on the territory that unfortunately is still under the control of the adversary. This problem can be solved in a drastic way when we will control this territory. But this is not the only solution. You know, there are opportunities of creating water pipelines, finding water on the territories that we are controlling, digging. One water pipeline has already been constructed, and now we are thinking about constructing one more. One of the key problems from the past is the loss of water, because the loss of water in the existing pipelines was 68% up to now. Now they have reduced, but still, this is around 50%. Of course, I have discussed these issues with the members of the government, with the authorities of the region, but it turns out that solving the problem of water laws means that we need to repair the whole pipeline system that was neglected for decades. Everything collapses there. In order to repair this whole system, we need to reduce the water loss up to 0%, and we need to invest so much money as the construction of another water pipeline. But I would like you to hear us that we know about this problem. It is very acute. We'll try to do everything to solve it as soon as possible. Thank you. One more question. BBC, United Kingdom, please, to ask your question. Thank you very much. Steve Rosenberg, BBC News. Well, I cannot see you. Just directly. Please. Well, Steve Rosenberg, BBC News, the question about the future of Russia. What is the future that you are planning, that you are building for your country and for your people? As it is now, will it be legal in this future any public being not in accordance publicly with something? Will you look for enemies inside or abroad in this future? Will there be disconnection of mobile connection, mobile internet? Will there be new special military operations? Or maybe Russia will follow another way? I remember you said once that the future is in our hands, in the hands of all of us. But in fact, the whole power in Russia is in your hands. It means that the future as well, what it will be it be the continuation of what we see now? Thank you. What will be the future of Russia? Are we going to punish legally for the actions who do not agree with the people? Are we going to penalize it? You know, there is a law that is being criticized about foreign agents, distinguished colleague. I would like to draw your attention to the fact that we have not invented it. This law exists in several states. In the US, it was introduced in the 30s of the 20th century. All of these laws, the US law as well, are much harsher. There is criminal responsibility up to imprisonment for the activity in the political sphere if you are financed from abroad. We have nothing like that. According to our law, it is just necessary to declare that you have some sources of financing. We don't have any repressions. We don't have any criminal responsibility. If people stop engaging in political activity, or when they stop using foreign sources of financing, they are eliminated from these lists, and there are many of such examples. And what is going to be with BBC, because there is a million lawsuit from the president of BBC. Well, these are their family matters. They should deal with them themselves. I don't want to interfere. I just don't want to touch upon this topic, not to make it more difficult for you. There is such problem. There is a problem of falsification of information, fake news, and I think that President Trump is right. But it's not that important. You asked whether there will be new special military operations. No. There will be no operations if you treat us with respect, if you comply with our interests, respect our interests, as we always try to respect your interests. If you don't try to play dirty tricks with us, like it was with the NATO eastward expansion. You said that there would not be a NATO eastward expansion even by an inch. It was a direct quotation. As it said, as we say, we just neglected our interests in the security. It is in hands. And they continue to escalate the situation, speaking all the time that they are preparing for war with Russia. But as far as I know, you live here for many years. But I think you understand it, and those who speak about war with Russia also understand it. Are we truly going to attack Europe? This is This is done based on the political reasons. And this is done to create the image of an enemy. They are creating an image of an enemy, and they're making Russia the enemy to hide the mistakes that were made systemically for leaders, for many Western leaders for several years in economy, in the sphere of social policy. Where is this green agenda when we see new coal plants being opened? Nuclear plants were closed and now they're returning to them. This is a mistake after mistake. And they are trying to make Russia an enemy.
They want to distract their people from their own mistakes with the help of the external affairs. And your questions constitute attempts of similar kind. You said that all the power belongs to me and is in my hands. Well, yes, President of Russia is vested with powers and credentials, and the borderlines of this power are clearly enshrined in our fundamental law, Russian constitution. And when legislative decisions are made, I enact this law by signing them, as in any other country. But I cannot tell you with a firm what proportion. Well, probably a big chunk of these laws is initiated by our MPs, deputies, or senators. These are hard facts. Obviously, the President of Russia has a lot of powers, but I believe that as this is a presidential republic, this is justified as of today. But in concluding, I must say that we're ready to work with you, work with the United Kingdom, Europe, and the United States, but on par, given the due respect for one another that should be in place. And frankly, incidentally, if we end up there, everybody will benefit. I have already recalled one of the conversations that I witnessed. The former Germany's Chancellor Kohl, back in 1993, he said that the future of Europe, if Europe wanted to be preserved as a standalone civilization center, should be together with Russia. And we are mutually complementary in a natural way, and we must work together and make headway, he said. Otherwise, Europe would disappear. He said, well, look, Russia, despite seeing a slowdown of our economy to 1%, still ranks fourth in terms of GDP size by PPP, following China, US, and India. Russia is number 4. We are followed by Japan and Germany. The United Kingdom that you represent today, unfortunately, ranks 8th or 7th or 9th, probably 7th or 8th on GDP size by PPP. But had we joined our efforts with the European countries, our joint GDP by PPP would surpass that of the United States. Well, this is all theoretic, but it's obvious that complementing one another and joining efforts, we would have flourished. Well, it's you who are waging a war against us, not us. You are waging a war against us with the hands of the Ukrainian neo-Nazis. We're ready to stop that fighting immediately, provided that Russia's security is provided in mid-term and long run, and we're ready to cooperate with you. Well, Steve, I think the audience will agree with me. Lately, we have seen and heard a lot of statements and actions on the part of European politicians that are mind-boggling. Why do you see they display this exorbitant support of the Kiev regime, and no one has been thinking about the European values, and they've been just supporting the Kiev for no reason, and they're even ready to pursue a conflict with the US president? Well, this outrageous policy, as you put it, I've just tried to account for that, answering the question by the colleague from BBC. They are trying to cover up their mistakes, to conceal their mistakes. In economy and finance, and they got in a gauge, and so it is very hard for them to move rightwards or leftwards. With respect to a possible conflict with the US president, there is nothing surprising about that, and it's obvious for any observer. The European elites used to support the Democratic Party and Madam Harris during the presidential campaign in the United States, and they were quite brazen in that, quite straightforward. Once President Trump was accused of meddling with elections, but nothing was proved, and all the Congress investigations ended in nothing. However, the political elites of Europe directly interfered, and that was quite blatant and obvious and uncovered. And they now hope that after the midterm elections next year, the political landscape will change a bit, and their traditional allies will be back on track, and they will put more pressure on Donald Trump. This is why they are so insolent in the view of the forthcoming midterm Congress election. With respect to separate political figures, they have been conducting themselves in an aggressive way, an unprofessional way, I think. Let's come back to domestic developments. And one final point with respect to those aggressive statements and declarations. I marvel at them. And I personally know the current NATO Secretary General, the former Prime Minister of the Netherlands. I used to pay a visit to the Netherlands, and he's a smart person, a clever person, a systemic one, and an efficient one. He used to be an efficient Prime Minister, and the economy of the Netherlands is in a good shape, and this is partly his merit. But now he's talking nonsense. Why are you talking this nonsense about a prospective war with Russia? They want to get ready and brace themselves for a war with Russia. Can you just read the new strategy, national security strategy of the United States, and it says that the United States is a key player and the founder and the main sponsor of NATO, and the bulk of the funding comes from the United States, as well as the ordnance and hardware and weapons. So the new U.S. strategy, security strategy, Russia is not indicated as an enemy, as a target. while the Secretary General of NATO is bracing himself for a war with us. Why so? Can he read? You are indisposing NATO against Russia to wage a war with Russia. At the same time, the backbone country of NATO does not consider us to be an enemy. Kinda, I would question the level of professional competence. You should be quite attentive about your own duties, and you should also be open to what is happening around you. So we've been on air for about 3 hours. We've been live for about 3 hours, and we have around 3 million applications and questions, and lots of them are about the housing issue. Well, the family mortgage, people want it to be extended to encompass the second-hand residential market. Well, and this already encompasses 900 locations, but there are some of the restrictions critical for families with many children. They have to move to locations where they build new houses, but it's not universal. Victin Sergeyevna from the Tomsk region recorded an address to you. Hello, Mr. President. We are a family with multiple children. We have 3 kids, and we actually want to resort to the family mortgage, but there are no new builds in our location. Those houses already built with flats that are apt for us are over 20 years of age, so we'd actually like you to expand the family mortgage to encompass such families as ours and cover smaller locations. Well, it was pre-recorded. The location Stryzhevoy, the town of Stryzhevoy, the town called Stryzhevoy, an oilers town. So in this decision, is she listening? I think she is streaming us live. So this decision has been made, and for regions where they don't have new builds or have very low rates of construction, it is allowed to resort to family mortgage to buy second-hand homes, previously owned homes and flats. So there's always a number of issues cropping up. It all depends on the quality of construction and the quality of a building, because while you keep repaying your mortgage loan, the quality of that edifice may deteriorate. So you should be very particular and attentive towards a possible quality of that of a prospective edifice. So 880 locations are on that list. In case your location, your town, is not on the list, we will add it there. And yesterday I had a discussion with some of the colleagues from the cabinet who are responsible for residential construction and supporting families. And this is something I took away from that. Measures of this kind, when they were taken, were aimed at supporting the families and the construction sector. And the decision was not easy at all. I mean, buying second-hand, previously owned homes with the help of family mortgage loans. Well, it's quite useful for the construction sector in the new build sector. But you know, with respect to the previously owned homes, there's a number of issues still to be ironed out and resolved, so that this support measure benefits not the construction sector but the families. Most importantly, as regards your town, if it's not on the list, we'll put it on the list. During previous call-ins, the deceived unit holders problem was raised and escrow accounts were introduced. The construction company receives all the amount only when the building is commissioned. But actually now it turns out that the developers may receive all the money but not hand out the keys from flats and apartments to the unit holders. This is a video pre-recorded. Good day, we bought a flat in the city of Vsevolozhsk, but I haven't received my keys from that flat because there's always the postponement of the deadline by the construction company. They've been moving that to December 2025. I received this notification in July because of the connections issue. And on the 21st of August, this escrow amount was credited to the construction company's account, and at the same time I received a notification that the building is fully committed, but there is no central heating and no proper electricity supply. And on the 13th of October I received a notification that the commissioning is postponed till April. I believe it's a fraud because I don't have my keys. I cannot move into my flat and I don't have my money. So one of the few ways to impact the construction companies is to demand a forfeit payment. Since the pandemic, there's been a moratorium on penalties, and since then, this moratorium has been extended. Will you extend this moratorium once again? Yes, this is an issue that is well known. The decision to introduce this moratorium to support the construction sector during the COVID-19 pandemic was taken, and this is still in place with respect to penalties till the end of the year. I think this is sufficient, and I would ask the government not to extend this kind of moratorium. Flats should be handed over on time. There are some of the issues related to the delays in handing out keys from flats. And, sometimes those apartments lack furniture, which is counter to the previously signed contracts, and the connections issue also may be pending. But, I think that this moratorium track should be stopped, and I would ask the government to conclude that, and we need to act systemically so that the construction companies and developers honor their obligations. And definitely we should protect, most importantly, the interests of the people of ours. Another topic about the sports facilities and delays in commissioning. It may be virtually ready, but it will not be commissioned, like the city of Abazar, saying that the ice arena in that location is not commissioned, and a local community even helped dig the pit, but of no avail. Another sports facility also is stalled in construction. So actually, for a number of years, the government has been trying to balance our budgets, and we've been repeating the same thing. If a facility, an installation is delayed, is not commissioned, if it's in progress, you should complete that construction first and foremost, not starting a new one. And please submit these data to the government, and we'll actually handle that. And I can see a placard saying, "I want to get married." So it's going to be a different topic, I think. Mr. President, good afternoon, Kirill Bajanov 4th channel, Yekaterinburg Regional TV. Oh, you're dressed up, you're groomed, you're getting ready to go to the registry office and get married. Yes, indeed. And this is not accidental that I have this sign, this placard. I know that my girlfriend is watching this direct line. Olga, will you marry me? Please marry me. I propose to you. I propose to you, darling. It all happened here. So, Mr. President, we would be so glad to see you at our wedding ceremony. And now my question is, Mr. President, it's not accidental that I have this placard, this plate. I will not ask about public utilities or anything else. I'm after support measures for young families. Myself and my fiancée have been together 8 years, and I was born into a family of a priest, and we want to have children, but I cannot afford children. If I borrow a mortgage now to buy a one-room flat in Yekaterinburg, I'll have to pay 50,000 rubles per month for 30 years. Mr. President, is there an opportunity to help and support the young ones so that these amounts of money should not go to banks, but should be invested into our future and our kids?
As a young man, 23 years old, I can tell you for sure this is going to be the greatest stimulus that will help push our demographic trends upwards. Well, I can see that you've been with your fiancé for 8 years, so you started dating when you were 15? Oh, that's great. Good for you. You know, in the Caucasus, among the peoples who live there, they've got very good traditions. They marry out their children when they're still in a very tender age, and I think we should all follow the example. You know, I know Ramzan Kadyrov. He's got a big family, many children, many of them are marrying, both young men and young girls. I asked him about that. He said this is a tradition in the Caucasus, though that's great. Well, as for your particular case, I've said that there's a whole architecture of support measures that has been set up for families with children. It applies to families of students. I'm not going to recount all the measures because that would take too long. And I've spoken about that. And it's impossible, you know, to wait ad infinitum for material conditions to improve, for you to get education. Well, you can wait forever. It's best not to postpone for too long having children, because this is part of our life, and we've got to go through this life because, you know, giving birth to new generations, and I think you're also a believer, so I would tell you that this is probably the mission entrusted to us by God, and we'll certainly keep up these support measures despite certain tensions related to the need to rebalance the budget. We have still managed to allocate money for family mortgage. And, you know, there are some places, some spots across the country where the mortgage can be drawn out not at 6%, but 2%. And, you know, when you are together with someone you love, it does not mean where you live. It's not going to be, you know, just a small hut. It's got to be a small apartment or a bigger apartment, but in a region where the interest payments on the mortgage are 2%, not 6%. You've got to have a look at all of that. What does your fiancée do? She's starting 3rd year, and I'm graduating from the journalism department. Well, yes, I've just said that there are several measures of support for student families. Just have a look at those. But, you know, when young man thinks you have to buy this and that, you have to live somewhere, there are many issues to be addressed, but best not to postpone such fundamental matter as making family and having children. It's that sector, you know, I see Zvezda. Is it okay, Mr. President? Yeah, sure. Good afternoon, Konstantin Kokoveshnikov, Zvezda TV. You've spoken about attempts at crushing Russia's economy, but I can't help asking about the unmanned vessels strikes by Ukrainians against certain vessels. You know, apart from critical energy infrastructure, there are attempts to strike Russia's export vessels. Several people have spoken up on that, in particular, leader of Turkey, President Erdogan, a woman sitting next to me. She spoke about that, you know, just a couple of days ago. There was a strike against a vessel in the Black Sea, in the Mediterranean Sea. There were several victims, several people dead. And should there be a blockade of the Kaliningrad region, if that occurs to someone in Europe, what's going to be done? Well, let's start with the last part of your question. Let's hope this will not happen. But if similar threats arise, we will eliminate those threats, and everyone needs to understand that such actions will simply bring about never before seen escalation that would escalate this conflict to an unprecedented level and expand it to a large-scale military conflict. Everyone needs to understand that. As far as strikes against our civilian infrastructure are concerned, you represented a media that deals with the military. You are well aware that these strikes are something we respond to, carrying out strikes that, in terms of their scale and power, are simply far superior to what the Kiev authorities are doing. But as far as damages are concerned to civilian infrastructure, to non-competence, well, that is something that is deserving of strictest condemnation, and will always respond. We are receiving news that another oil tanker has been attacked in the Mediterranean. Yes, you know, they're pursuing some utilitarian purposes. They want to raise insurance premiums, but this will not bring about the result they are desirous of. This is not going to disrupt the supplies. This would only create additional threats, and Russia is certainly going to respond. Bashkiria, yeah, sure, go ahead. Good afternoon, Mr. President. Thank you for this opportunity to ask you a question. First, let me give you the greetings from the population of our republic. And on behalf of Bashkortostan, we would like to thank you for the attention you are paying to Bashkortostan, to our region. Right now, Tajikistan is building a Russia-Tajik industrial park on the Russian side. This project is operated by Bashkortostan. So my question is as follows. What other friendly nations can give venue to similar projects where Bashkortostan's example can prove to be useful? Thank you. Well, we've been building a similar infrastructure in Egypt for some time. In the Nile area, there's a very good site there, and our cooling